Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Monday Morning Mandolin. Today is not actually another session for the mandolin. I've been received some comments on some of my other videos about doing a potential tutorial. In particular, it was my session on If I Ever Leave This World Alive by Flogging Molly. So today what I'm going to do is, it's not going to be a straight up tutorial. What I'm going to do more so is talk about a whole bunch of things relating to learning the mandolin and music. And then at the end of the video, I'll see if I can post some timestamps below. I'm going to have sort of a bit of the tutorial just on basically how to play it, get you started into it, going from basic chords and strumming to more advanced chords and strumming, and then adding in flair and riff. So, yeah, sit tight. So I do have some extra light, and I'm going to be doing some zoom-ins. I'm not a video editor, so if there's anything that you see that you're unclear of, let me know, and I'll do what I can to fix that. So to start, I guess I'm going to talk about why I play what I do and this channel in general. I do play a fair amount of instruments. A lot of them I got secondhand or I got as gifts. So none of the stuff I have is very high quality. None of the stuff I have is super professional. But I've made it work. So whatever, and the point there is that whatever you have, make it work. It doesn't really matter. I mean, unless you're going to be trying to be professional, you're trying to be an accomplished musician. Every model of mandolin, banjo, guitar, piano will have its own sound, will have its own little inferences, its own special ways of doing things. So be aware of that whenever you're picking up an instrument. As for myself, I'm not actually very classically or professionally trained in any instrument other than piano, which I fell out of quite a while back, and I'm recently getting back into it. I started with guitar, and I was very interested in guitar, loved the sound of it. You know, I wanted to play stuff like Green Day. This was quite a few years back. And my problem there was that I kind of lost sight of some of the theory of music, which is going to be important, especially if you're a mandolin player. If you're playing guitar, if you're playing banjo, I would argue you can get away with a bit less. But with mandolin, you do have to know a fair amount of theory if you want to get really good with it. And that segues to my next point. What I try to do is, I call it, I guess, I play my instruments campfire style. I'm not really a master at any instrument. I'm a bit of a jack of all trades. I like to just play music to be able to sit in front of a campfire or in a jam session and play with a bunch of friends. Jump into a random session with random people, whatever it is. So that's why, and I've been attracted to mostly bluegrass instruments, traditionally bluegrass instruments. But that being said, everything I've tried to learn has been more so just to get the basics and so I can play them and individual styles. I listen to a wide variety of music, which I think has definitely helped. If you want to be a musician, listen to a lot of music. Doesn't matter if it's your style or not, give things a try. You never know what you're going to find that you might like and that you can put into your own music, that you can cover your own way. So my next point I would say is, whatever it is you're doing, I don't think the goal is to be perfect. I think the goal when it comes to any kind of instrument is not to make perfection, but to make music. And while that sounds kind of cliche and a little cheesy, I think it's very important to keep in mind and remember that not all of us want to be, you know, amazing at guitar, amazing at accordion, amazing at piano, right? Those things come with time. The skill comes with consistent practice, consistent time, and the work put in. I've fallen out a little bit with music recently, but it's something that I'm very happy and very glad I've stuck with, at least a little bit I have overall. So whether you're new, whether you're super advanced, it doesn't matter. The important part is that you should know why you want to make music, and that will help direct you where you want to go. And I've learned mostly just how to play basic instruments, basic things, basic patterns in order to progress. And that's kind of, I guess, the goal of most of this stuff, especially this channel. This channel is more just for me to continue practicing the mandolin and keep playing it, and hopefully to share a few things. So that's what we're going to be doing, hopefully, in this tutorial. So part 2 would be things that I think a mandolin player should know. And there are some very basic things that even I don't 100% know, but you should if you want to play mandolin and any other instrument. This is where kind of a bit more theory comes in. I'm not going to be talking a whole lot about theory because I'm not proficient in it as much as I should be. But you should definitely put some time into it. And I've put a lot of links down below onto different sources and things that you can use and that have helped me learn various aspects of theory. The first thing you want to know as a mandolin player, I think, is scales. Scales are fantastic. They help teach you the muscle memory and the movement of your fingers up and down the fretboard here, right? So if I'm going to play basic scale, butcher that a little bit. Scales will help you learn the fretboard. They will help you learn what the different notes sound like, what semitones sound like, because in case you don't know, every fret up is basically a semitone. That's a very basic theory. So scales will definitely help you as a mandolin player, mostly because it'll help you teach the different notes, teach the different sounds they make, and will also teach you more about keys. The key of a song is very important as a mandolin player, because a mandolin player, despite what I do, is not really big into chords. A mandolin player will mostly use chop chords, which I will explain in a bit, but usually they're an accompaniment instrument. A mandolin is usually playing the melody, it's playing a riff, it's not usually playing chords or background music. Even though, of course, you can, that's what I try and do, but the mandolin has a very specific sound compared to even things like a guitar or ukulele. Guitar and ukulele, you can play them by themselves, they sound wonderful. The mandolin's a bit more difficult because the sound it makes is a lot brighter, but a lot harsher. So it's definitely a stronger point of whatever you're playing. So scales, you want to learn them. I'm not going to be running through scales with you. I'm going to post links down below where you can find them. But definitely use them as a warm-up tool. Play them slowly. Practice, practice, practice. And they will definitely help you with your improv, with solos, with playing riffs in general. Next, I would say are arpeggios. Arpeggios are basically chords played broken up. That's a G arpeggio. So I'll go into a bit more of the chords later, but this is a G chord. The arpeggio is essentially playing the chord one note at a time. It's more for style, and it's more for soloing and jumping up and down the fretboard. It's another tool to use in your arsenal. Definitely something worth learning. And that can even go for a guitar, for banjo, for a lot of things, but arpeggio specifically is more for a mandolin. Chords, I'm going to get into a bit of chords today, but it is vital that a mandolin player know their chords. And there are tons of places you can learn and find different chords. I myself have a book that I've purchased. It's a mandolin chord dictionary, and it runs through a whole bunch of different chords. So everything from G to F, all the different notes you'd want, as well as their derivatives. Because one thing that you'll learn is that there are different ways to play chords, and a guitar player will know this too. Guitar players will have chords, power chords, inversions, sevens, a seventh chord. These are all different ways to play the same chord with maybe a bit of a different sound. An easy example I'll discuss now are chop chords. Mandolin normally has that chop sound. You can hear it like everything's kind of muted. I'm not the best at it, but I do a bit of I kind of cheat a little bit. A chop chord is when everything is kind of muted, but it still gives you that strong sound. So what I was playing there was a muted G chord, which is instead of playing a full chop chord, let's see if I can zoom in here a little bit. A full chop chord would have me play, a G would be something like this. Every single string is covered. You can hear it sounds a little bit off. I'm not really proficient at playing chop chords. But the purpose here is that every string is muted. And that gives you, and it's usually played on the offbeat. So you don't play right on beat. You don't play on the 1, 2, 3, 4 rhythm. You play on the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and rhythm. It's a little confusing, but once we get into the tutorial, you'll understand a little bit more, I think. So yeah, chop chord usually uses all the strings on the fretboard, whereas regular chords, open chords, will use only a couple of strings. And open chords are great. They're very easy, especially in mandolin, to learn, but they will be difficult to play over and over, and especially if you want to learn to play different kinds of chords. Another example for chords would be, here's a C chord. One of my favorite chords, very bright, easy, fun to get into, and it's used for a lot of songs. There are power chords for mandolin, and you can play a C this way, the open C, or you can play like that. See, it's a bit of a different sound because now you're playing different strings with different notes. You're putting all the strings are being used, but in a different way. So I'm going to post some links down below. I know that was a very short discussion on chords and whatnot, but they are fairly important. So that's, again, that covers most of the things you want to practice. Scales, arpeggios, chords. Tablature and stuff is going to be a great help for you, and in the links below, you'll find a lot of different places. I'm not really going to go into reading tablature right now, but because this tutorial is already getting long, it's already at 10-minute mark, and I don't want to keep you guys waiting here all day. So those are things you want to practice. Practice slowly, practice consistently, even if it's 15 minutes a day, and you will get better, and you will see that improvement, you'll hear the improvement, you'll feel the improvement. You can hear from a little bit I was playing, I'm a little out of practice. I don't practice like I should be. I'm working on some other things right now, so things do get difficult. That being said, we're going to move now into the tutorial. I'm going to show you the different chords, I'm going to break down for you the music, and we're going to play it a little bit. So, If I Ever Leave This World Alive by Flogging Molly is a great, great song to learn for pretty much anybody, I would say. It's not a negative song. It's quite positive. Really good place to practice flair, riff, and progression. So what I'm going to go through with you guys today is the basic playthrough. I'm not sure how advanced we're going to go, because I don't want to take up all your time, but we're gonna see what we can learn from this piece. So first, let's get me a bit more light. I'm going to show you some of the basic chord progressions. So in the link down below, I have the link for ultimateguitar.com. It's a great place to get chords, tablature for primarily guitar players, but the chords will work for pretty much any instrument. This song uses primarily D, G, and A. Those are your main chords. There's a few others that are thrown in, but it's not hugely important. Oh geez, maybe I should move this camera a little bit. What I'm going to do today is show you the chords to start. We'll go into some strumming, and we'll move on from there. So it's kind of difficult. My camera's not the best quality, and that's another thing. If you're going to be recording this stuff, make sure you have a good mic and a good camera. And I don't really know much about that, so I can't help you, but there's lots of YouTubers who can help you with that. So what I do is, in tablature, it's kind of the opposite, but for my own sake, I've learned it this way. Your G string, the low one, that is your first string. D is your second. A is your third. I'm a little out of tune there. And E is your last. Now, obviously, the mandolin's an 8-string instrument, but for the purposes of playing it, every single one of these duos is a single string. And you'll find that in all the tablature and everything online. So a D chord is very simple. The second fret, so here's the first fret, second fret. On the second fret, you want to cover the first and the fourth string, right? That's kind of hard to see, but you would be covering right here, and then on the other side, right here with your fingers. Now, I like to use index and middle for this, and as you can see, it's kind of difficult to see exactly what I'm doing here, but that is the most natural position for my fingers personally. My thumb kind of straddles all the way around the back, but it's a nice bright sound. So that's a D. If you need to, go strip the chord, look online, and it'll have the actual breakdown of it for you, all the strings, but that's what we're going to show you. The G, also a very similar chord. The difference being, on the third, it's only the last two strings, so third and fourth, you're going to have your middle finger, third fret on the last string, and then you're going to have your index finger on the second fret of the third string. So I know it's a bit difficult to see. I've got some decent lighting there. So you're only using 1 and 2 here. So I have my middle, my index. You'll know you have it if you can hear something like that, right? And a note for your fingers, don't press your fingers very strong against the string, unless you have calluses or you're very used to it, because that'll get very tiresome very quickly for your hands, and you will feel kind of the cramping in your hand and your fingers. You only need to press it just enough to get that sound. That's me, and a bit lighter. And then we're doing the 8 chord. The 8 chord's a bit more tricky. So this is where we start getting into what would be called the bari chord in guitar. Your index finger goes all the way across all the strings in the second fret. Your thumb is now pressing against the back here. Oh, that's not an angle. Kind of like that. See, my thumb's kind of putting pressure here. You can also use your middle finger to help push down. That does help. And then what you're going to do is, on the 5th and 4th fret of the last two strings, yet again, you're going to have, it's basically a higher up G chord. Right? So you've got 1, 2, 3, on the 4th fret of the 3rd string and the 4th fret of the 4th string. My pinky finger goes there, and my, oops, you can see that. Pinky finger goes right here on the 5th fret, and my ring finger goes on the 4th fret there. Every single dot on your mandolin is 3 frets up, so that would also be very helpful just to keep in mind. There's your A chord. Again, I would recommend you find some of the diagrams online for chords that way, and it will definitely help you. Mostly because I find with a lot of videos it can be very difficult to see properly, especially with the setup I have right here. It's not very beneficial, but there will be links below to help you out. The last chord we're going to need, I guess I should zoom in again, is a B minor. The B minor is very similar to an A chord. So here's your A chord. The B minor, we're moving up 2 frets. That's now technically a B. So just for a bit of theory, here's A sharp, B. Every fret up is a semitone. The only difference here is instead of having your ring finger right above your 4th string, you're moving it down 1. So here you would use my middle finger is moving onto that string now. I know it's very difficult to see, and I apologize, but that's unfortunately what I have to work with here. Those are your main chords. So what's going to follow now is you open up the link below, go to the Ultimate Guitar page. What I like to do is copy and paste the song with the chords and lyrics onto a Microsoft document or whatever software you have, and that way then I can edit it a little bit if I need to. But let's not waste too much time, and let's get right into the tutorial. So first way to play it is going to be very simple, just strumming up and down on the strings on the beat. So that's kind of just the way we do it. I will sing with this tutorial. I'm going to be singing because that's how I'm used to it. But if you're not singing with it, that's okay. Just play the song to yourself. First of all, listen to the song, know what you're playing, and then try it, just kind of strumming along with it. So, if I ever leave this world alive, I'll thank you for the things you did in my life. Ever leave this world alive, I'll come back down and sit beside your feet tonight. Now we're going to throw in the A and the B minor a little bit. Wherever I am, you'll always be more than just a memory. If I ever leave this world alive. So that's, again, the very basic way to play it. And you can play the whole song like that. That's fine. Again, you're playing for you, right? So if that's the way you want to learn or how you want to start, by all means do it. I think it's the best thing to start is by going slow, learning to move your fingers up and down the fretboard. And I know it's kind of difficult. It was difficult to see. My technology, what I have is not the greatest, but the way my fingers move up and down is they don't move very much. And that's why these chords are the way they are, because you want to limit the movement. It makes it easier for you to switch from chord to chord. So when I go from a D to a G, my fingers are not moving as much as they are, as much as you think they are at least. And as you practice, that muscle memory kicks in, and you'll learn to play it that specific way. The other thing you want to learn to do, oh, I had a thought there. It's just practice moving up and down the chords. So before singing with it, learn to switch between the chords. It'll take some doing, but again, muscle memory will kick in. You will learn how to move your fingers very quickly from chord to chord. And have a firm grip. Usually I have a strap, but my other mandolin right now is out of operation currently. And this one does not have anything for a strap. A strap is very useful for you because it allows you to hold it a little bit higher up, which will make it easier on you. That being said, that was the easy way of playing it. And you can go right on through there. If that's what you want, that's perfect, right? You're making music, not perfection. But now we're going to see if we can make things a little bit more bright and flary, right? This is a very, very fun song to play. You can do a couple of things. You can mute the chords. So I'll move that up a little bit and I'll zoom in for you and show you what I'm doing there with my hand. So what I'm doing here is to move this camera down a little bit. I'm not just playing the chords. Oh, this is difficult. Just open. Right, my hand's kind of loose, but what I'm doing is I'm resting the heel of my palm on the strings. So I play it, and then I palm it as my hand moves back up. And that gives you a bit of that chop sound. You can kind of hear that. So if that's one thing you're interested in, you can practice that. It's one of the things I usually do because it really gives it that mandolin sound. That kind of upbeat, high beat, strong sound. And you can do the whole song that way as well. Again, listen to the music, follow along with the chords that I'm going to be posting below. Another thing you can do is now move on to the way it's actually played on the guitar that they do in the song. The song actually uses a mandolin as well, but the mandolin is only for highlights and accompaniment. What we're going to do here is learn to play the actual riff, the actual tune he plays. So it's not just, if you're new to strumming, again, you're going to have to work up to this, learn to strum faster and faster, up and down. Just nice and light, keep your wrist moving. We're going to do a combination of muting, and we're going to do a combination of a little bit of finger work here. So what I'm going to do is zoom in there again. Look at that nice zoom in. And I'm going to play it now once for you just to show you how it actually sounds in the song. So all I'm doing there is, it's kind of hard for me to just explain because I'm not exactly, again, the rhythm and the beat's a little bit difficult for me to break down for you. But listen to the song and you will hear that pretty much there's a couple of beats in the riff that he just removes his index finger from. That's all you do for the mandolin. You would remove your finger from the first string, that second fret, and bring it up and down. And you can really hear that it makes a little bit, it adds a bit more depth to the song, and especially with the mandolin, which the mandolin by itself is not a very strong instrument, like I've mentioned. It's more of an accompaniment. But again, you're playing what you want to play, and that's how this song sounds. So we're going to now, and that strumming pattern is down, down, up, down, up. Whoops, that was wrong. Down, down, up, down, up. It's kind of, again, it's hard for me to explain. Down, down, up. Down, up, down, down, up, up, down, 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 up, down, down, up, down, up, down. And I messed up a little bit, but that's sort of the strumming pattern you want. So practice playing that for a little bit. And then once you get that, you can add in the other chords, once you've practiced moving them up and down. And you kind of keep moving with that. Again, start slow, start very slowly, and work your way up. One more time for that specific strumming pattern. It's down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down. I keep confusing that. I'm sorry. I apologize. Down, down, up, down, 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 up, down. And then you would throw in the other chords for there. When you start getting into the later part of the verses, it doesn't do that strumming pattern anymore. It kind of goes just a... Actually, it's the same thing. Never mind. It's kind of hard for me to kind of... I'm so trained to play the song a certain way that it kind of just sits that way for me for the song. So that's how you can play that one. Again, I'll play the verse a little bit for you here, and it'll be a little bit quicker. If I ever leave this world alive, I'll thank you for the things you did in my life. If I ever leave this world alive, I'll come back down and sit beside your feet tonight. Wherever I am, you'll always be more than just a memory. If I ever leave this world alive. And And then, again, that comes with practice. I know it's a very quick way of learning it, of showing it rather, but that's eventually what you'll get. So the strumming pattern is what's unique to the song, and it's hard for me to explain because I'm used to listening to a lot of music and kind of figuring out strumming pattern from that. So what I recommend is that if you're new to this song still, listen to the song a lot, play along with the song, do the basic strumming, and then try to match the beat a little bit with your strumming. One little kind of pro tip is that if you are strumming with the mandolin, you kind of want to keep your wrist moving. That's a big part of it, because that way, even with guitar, if you're keeping the momentum going and you just kind of move the pick on and off the string, it will help you keep that rhythm and that momentum going. Oh god, this is a long tutorial. Finally, what we're going to do, I guess, now is flowing in a bit more of the flare and a bit of the riff. So if you're playing this riff, it's a little bit harder to throw right into the song. So if you're playing the chord, if you're doing the intro and you just want to throw the riff in where it's supposed to be, it takes away a little bit from the chord structure, which is fine. Again, if that's what you want to do and you want to learn it, by all means, go ahead and do it. It can be a little bit jarring. Since there's no real tablature for it, once again, we're going to do my crazy zoom in. This is where you're going to have to practice tremolo. Tremolo is simply, it's strumming the one string very quickly, which is an iconic mandolin thing. So the basic pattern for it is you're basically using only the last two strings. Again, the A and the E. So let's see if I can show that a little bit better. So on the 4th string, 5th fret, 2nd, open, 4th string, 2nd, open, 5th on the 4th string again. I know it's kind of hard to see, but play around with it. I'm going to play it once without speaking. Try to find where my fingers are and correlate and combine the sounds to what you're playing right now. Once you practice your tremolo or even vibrato, you can play that a bit more like it is a natural song. That's that riff there, and you can throw that in whenever you'd like to throw that in. One thing to notice from that is how I move my fingers. One of the first things you want to learn how to do is how to properly move your fingers up and down the fretboard, and that comes also with scales. So when you're doing something like that, you really want to just make it the least effort for your fingers. So if I have, I'm not going to zoom in for this, when I'm doing the first note, it's my pinky finger, then my middle or index, whatever's more comfortable, index, open, pinky. And that's because your hand naturally is just kind of on these 5 to 6 frets here. So you don't have to do as much movement. It makes it a lot easier than using your index finger and just going up and down, which makes it a bit more confusing. But that's really it. This video's already been way longer than it should be. And I know a lot of what I said might be a bit more difficult to jump onto. I'm not used to teaching music. It's something that I'm doing as kind of based on a request, and I want you guys to feel that I'm listening to you, and I really am listening. I want to help you guys learn. But what you really want to do is go to the sources below, the links below, and search around, right? One of them, I think it's Mando Hangout is the one, is probably one of the best sources I've ever had. Its sister site, Banjo Hangout, is where I kind of picked up most of my banjo stuff. And there's a wide variety of tablature, wide variety of music theory and stuff to learn. I recommend checking it out. And if anything I've said here is really confusing, I apologize for it, first of all. But second of all, they'll be able to sort it out for you and explain it to you way better than I ever could. And that goes from music theory to scales, chords, etc. But what I recommend you do, if you are comfortable enough with it, is go to the link below for the chords to this song, the tablature, and try playing along. Listen to the song, figure out the rhythm and beat, play the mandolin to it, and that's really it. The only other thing I'm going to say here is going to be improvisation is your friend. One thing I learned about improv, and not just in music, but for pretty much anything, is the goals of improv. There are two major rules. One, yes and. Two, keep going. Yes and means if you do something or something happens, don't discount it. Don't just say, don't end the idea. If you get a note wrong, if you get something wrong when you're playing a riff or a scale or chords and you're in the middle of a performance or you're just playing and practicing, well, first of all, maybe re-go and try to play it well. But there are some times you can't go back and re-practice that little thing. So go and improv it. If that mistake happens, go with it. Use it as part of the thing, right? So if you're doing a scale, you mess up a note, you can keep going. You can change scales right away if you're comfortable with doing that, and you've learned kind of all the different notes in the fretboard. And the other thing is play as if it's part of the music. If you are struggling, if you're having a hard time, but, you know, you will improve with time. You got to keep the practice up. But if you're in the middle, let's say you're performing for somebody or you're doing an audition or something and you mess up, the worst thing you can do is stop and freak out. The best thing you can do is keep going, keep playing, and show that even if you have to stop or even if you've made a mistake, it's not going to stop you. And that way, a lot of people will think it's not a mistake, but part of the act, part of the performance. So that kind of covers today. I'm not going to play the full song. You can see my video of my performance for it if you'd like. If that helps you, some of the strumming and some of the timing and rhythm, by all means follow that. But the actual song is below. Use that for your rhythm and for your strumming patterns. Use the other sources below to learn scales, arpeggios, strumming patterns, chop chords, everything you can. Absorb everything. And keep in mind, your goal is not to make perfection, it's to make music. And with that, we're done. I hope you guys learned something today. If I can clarify anything, let me know. Sorry for the length of the video, but that's it. We'll see you guys next time.